Right, so today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. My name is Emily Ma, and I'm here with Honorable Theresa Chang on behalf of the Houston Asian American Archive at Rice. And just as a brief note, this is not a standard oral history interview, as Ms. Chang has done with us previously, but it's rather part of an independent project on ways that Chinese American immigrant parents express love to their children. So to begin, would you mind stating your full name and when and where you were born, please?
My name is Theresa Wenhua Chang, Chang. I was born in Taiwan in 1958.
Awesome. And can you describe your household growing up and your relationship with your parents?
Sure. So my father worked for the state-owned tobacco and liquor company in Taiwan, and my mom was a housewife. We live in Taiwan in a Japanese-style house with a Japanese garden, where my mom spent a lot of time gardening. My brother is 30 years older than me, and my sister is 9 years older than me. So my mother had me when she was 36, and everybody thought it was an accident, but she always said that it was planned and welcomed, because at that time, well, there's still a belief about, you want to have 坐月子, means you have a special cuisine, a special Chinese medicine during the first 30 days after you had a baby. And it was believed that if you have very good 30 days, that actually we can recover your health. So my mom's health was derailing, and people recommend her to have a kid, that's me, to recover her health. And she said it worked. So since I'm a baby of the family, so I think I got away a lot of strict rules that was imposed on my brother and my sister. The other thing is that my father emphasized on the importance of education. And I don't think he's the only one. I think a lot of his colleagues and our relatives feel the same way. So we expected, all of us expected to have a good grade and go to good college and study hard. And in a way that we need to study hard and not to worry about any housework. That's and we really shouldn't involved in any school activities or school functions. Because of that, you have to study hard. Since I always have a good grades, so I hardly have had any problem meeting their expectations. So I feel like I had a very good childhood.
Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear. I love the story about like your birth kind of healing your mom in a way. Do you recall any like specific happy memories with your parents?
So I remember one time that when my father had a 60 years birthday. 60 years to Chinese is very important birthday. So he had a big one, and at that time we don't have any birthday parties or birthday cakes when we have our birthday. On the birthday on that day, so the mom will cook a bowl of noodles to wish us longevity, but that's about it. But my father had a big birthday, 60 years birthday in the house, and he hired a chef to come into the house to cook, and all the relatives from all over Taiwan came in. So that was a happy time. The other happy memory I remember is, it's a very brief moment. The parents don't express their happiness towards you or they're happy about you or about your achievement at that time. It's just very brief moment. That's when I tested out for the private school, for the middle school, and it was very competitive. So my father did not know whether I would be able to be successful. And so after testing out among, I think, hundreds of students, I was rated number 3 in the whole class. So and I remember my father talked about it. He was so happy about it, and I guess that's a happy moment for me too.
Yeah, wow, that's a really impressive feat. That's amazing. Yeah, so just I guess moving on to immigration, could you tell me when and why you immigrated to America?
So I immigrated. So I came to United States after my college, in 1979, and I was majored in chemical engineering. So I really want to have advanced degrees in that area, and so I want to come to Texas for petroleum engineering. So I end up in Texas.
And do you recall any cultural shocks upon arriving in the US?
Yes, I think first thing is there was nobody on the streets. As you could remember, in Taiwan, it's like Hong Kong, and everybody's on the streets. At that time, we don't have any subways or bullet trains, so everybody either on bicycle. I think it's maybe small amount of people have motorcycle, but very few cars. So everybody's on the streets. I mean, you go shopping on the streets, you go to school on the streets, you go anywhere on the streets, and there is always a lot of people. Even after dinner time, there are people on the streets. But here in the United States, nobody on the streets. So I think that's the first one. And also, I remember the other thing is that, so you started school, and I was in Kingsville. All my professors spoke English with a strange accent to me. And I said, how come they didn't speak like the anchor, man or woman on the TV? That's the English we learned. So anyway, I had a hard time understanding them for longest time. So I had to seek help from my fellow students. Yeah.
I see. Did you have like difficulties overcoming the language barrier in that case?
I have tried many things. Even after I graduated and I came to work in Houston, I've tried. I joined a Toastmaster, and I took class at UH for English accent. I mean, to learn how to speak English. And then I also took some writing lessons or writing courses at the community college. But I think the best thing for me to really overcome the language barriers is when I went to law school. So when I went to law school, that's really, I learned the beauty of the English language. And also, when you study the case laws, then you understand how the society is evolved and why people think certain way, why Americans think certain ways. And I think that's really how, even though I didn't go to law school for that reason, but I really appreciated the fact that's a fringe benefit of going to law school.
For sure. And how did you make that kind of switch from petroleum engineering into law?
So I was with a pipeline company at the time, and we involved in the project. So every engineer has certain projects to work on. And then that was during 1980s when the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act passed in Congress. So I saw the firsthand that how those laws would change the priorities of your engineering projects. So just like feel like overnight, the priority has changed. So I realized how important the law to the business, even though, we're not a law firm, we're just engineering company or pipeline company. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that we involve in a lot of land deals. So sometimes we'll come to a meeting, talk about land deals for the pipelines. So we came in as engineers for the pipelines, but there are lawyers in a group. And when they talk about the legal impact to the projects, I have no idea what they're talking about. That means that I really don't know whether what they said is correct or not correct. I have no feel about it. It's not like engineering discipline, even though I'm chemical. But when I hear electric engineer talk about his discipline, I kind of know whether this engineer is good or so. And I have a feeling, but for law, I just could not. I cannot grasp on that part. So I said, well, if I want to climb up the corporate ladder, how can I add value to my company? I mean, even if they ask me to be vice president, then the president asked me, oh, should I do this, Theresa? And I would know about engineering part, but I would not know about legal part. And I don't think I can do it. I don't feel I'm comfortable in giving advice to my president when I don't know that part as well. So I said, well, how can I know that? Maybe I need to go to law school. So that's what happened.
I see. That's so interesting. So it's kind of a way to kind of round out your knowledge, I guess.
Yes. Yes. I want to have that legal knowledge. So it's for the purpose of how I can climb up my ladder.
I see. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when you came to the US, how would you say you stayed resilient? Because you were like on your own, away from your family. So how did you kind of get through that?
I have to think hard about that because I don't think I ever feel there's not a moment that you say, well, whether I should be resilient or not resilient. That's the only way to go about it. So I think the training I had for being resilient is not really when I came to the United States. It really is when I went to college. So I went from an all girls high school to the college. And remember, I'm chemical engineering, so we only have few people are girls. In the whole class of 60, we have 5 girls. And none of them in my so we have subgroup. So it's a lot of people class. So every class you divide by 2 or by 3. So I always the only girl in my class. So which is really hard because nobody wants to talk to. I mean, nobody never is. So you feel like isolated. I think I learned from that process or from that environment. You just have to rely on yourself. You just have to find a way to survive. So I don't know whether it's called resilient or perseverance or whatever, or just the willpower, but that's the only thing you can just survive. So I really think because I like your question so much because I never thought about that's something you need to think about. You don't. You just keep on going.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like when you're in the moment, it doesn't really feel like consciously you're being resilient. I guess you're just becoming resilient as you go. So how long would you say if it took you to feel comfortable and at home in the US?
I like that question too. I don't know when I feel comfortable, but I remember in the late 80s, I went for a project in Singapore. So I stayed there. I was a process engineer for our company as an engineering team for the project. So we were responsible to make sure the tanker that was built in Singapore will be built successfully and will be used in an offshore drilling in the South China Sea. So I was there for months to check on the projects. I went to facility yard, fab yard every day. And then we have a team there, so we went out to eat as you know, Singapore, they have Chinese food every day. We had Chinese food every day. But I remember one day we had a treat, so we went to American club, and every one of us had a hamburger. And I remember when I had my hamburger, I feel like, oh, I missed the hamburger so much. And then when I came back after the job, the project is completed, I still remember that feeling when I landed at Bush Intercontinental. And I just feel like, my heart is finally like settled. It was unsettled for a long time. It was settled, and I feel like, oh, I'm at home. I think that's the moment I feel like, Houston is home. At that time I was married and my kid was a toddler. So Houston is really home.
That's great. It sounds like you've built a wonderful life and a wonderful family here. Yeah, so I guess moving on to your family, could you tell me how many children you have, and then can you describe the household in which you raised them?
So I have two boys. They are 10 years apart. And my second one came when I was 39. It certainly was an accident, but it was a blessing from the God. So we really appreciate that. So I don't know whether you know the story about their famous philosopher in China called Mengzi. Mengzi probably have the same equivalent fame as a Kongzi. Confucius, right? As Confucius. I think Mengzi, they don't have an English name, but it's Mengzi. So there's a story about the mother of Mengzi. So the mother has moved 3 times because she realized every time, but for example, the first time she moved her house to a butcher. And she saw Mengzi starting using knife to cut meat and all that stuff. And I don't remember who was a neighbor for the second move. But then she decided, I need to give my kid a good environment. So she moved right next to school. So I remember that. So we moved, before my first child was born, we moved from Alice to Spring Branch. We moved to Piney Point Village in Spring Branch. So even though they did not go to the public school, they went through private schools, both of them. But we feel like that's a great move. That's the house we had for 30-some years.
Awesome. And yeah, I think I do remember reading that in like a graphic novel. The thing by Mengzi where his mom kept moving him, and then next to university, so then he started studying.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, so can you describe the way that you expressed love to your sons as they grew up? And if you have any specific memories that you're comfortable sharing, I'd love to hear them.
I think I like the most Chinese parents. I do hug them, kiss them when they're little, but they're boys. They don't like you hug them or kiss them when they're grown up. So we don't do that anymore. But now, since they're grown, they are in their 20s and 30s, and so we do hug each other when we see each other. And we'll hug each other when we were apart, that would send them off to the airport. So, and we do say, I love you after we had the phone conversation or FaceTime. I think that's the only thing we talk verbally. But as most of Chinese parents, I think you see the love when you worry about them, certain things, when you support them in certain things, and I think that's when they see that you really love them. One thing that we do is we have a family trips. When they were little, we have family trips 2 to 3 times a year, and now they all have their jobs and their girlfriends. So we still do once a year. Like they are coming home tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So we go to Nepal this year for our family trip. And I thought, although it's not express of love, but it's because of this togetherness that you cherish those memories together. And I think it also is a happy moments.
Yeah, have a safe flight to Nepal.
Thank you.
Do you have any like favorite memories from those trips that you took with your family?
Oh, we have every year is different, and every year we had great time. Um, but they can tell you, I think all their good memories are from the trips.
Do you have like a favorite country you've been to?
Everybody's favorite is different. So I like Antarctica, and Antarctica probably on the top of the list.
Wow. How was Antarctica?
I mean, the penguins are amazing. We saw thousands of thousands and miles long, so penguins. So it's something else.
Wow, that sounds very amazing, but very cold.
Very cold, that's true.
So how comfortable do you personally feel like expressing emotions in front of your children?
Um, towards them or towards myself?
Towards them, but it can also be like if you're able to cry in front of them or like show like strong emotions in front of them. Like, are you?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I cry a lot. I mean, when I watch movies, so there, yeah, I feel very comfortable. Even to tell them about, um, um, how much we love them. Um, I I have no problem doing it.
that's awesome. It sounds like a very healthy dynamic. That's great. So the next two questions are kind of similar, but why do you think there's a stereotype that Asian parents are seen as cold or unloving towards their children? And then also, what are your thoughts on tough love in parenting?
So I remember on the first T-ball, it is a practice or game of my older boy. So I realized something at that moment. So every time when a kid miss hitting a ball, and the parents were shout, "Oh, good try!" And so, but I can imagine if the Chinese parents will say, "Oh, how come you didn't hit that ball? You need to try harder next time." Then if a kid hit the ball, regardless how far it is, and then the parents will say, "Oh, great work," you know. But if a Chinese parents, they may say, "Well, you need to hit harder next time. You hit farther next time." So I think the Chinese parents has a tendency not giving out compliments or the praise to their children when they do something right, but they often criticize them when they do something, their mistakes, or something they did not do well. For example, if a kid come home with a grade A, he or she may not receive the praise from the parents. The parents may say, "How come you did not get A plus?" So I think my elder son has that experience because I think I'm more like Chinese parents when he was growing up. I think I modified my parenting skills when the second one came along. So I remember he was not very happy about my expectation about him until he went to St. John's. He came home and told me, he said, "Mom, now I realize you're not bad at all." Because my my fellow students, my friends' parents, they all want them to get 100, not 97 or 98, not just A, but A plus. At least you never asked for that. So so I think that stereotype is actually true in some regard, and maybe that's what you're talking about, tough life. And I really don't know the answer to that about tough life, because I think every kid is so different. And like my two kids they're very different. They have very different personalities, and they think differently either. Also, so but I think tough life works for some kids, but not others. So I really cannot tell you about that.
Yeah, I think your perspectives make a lot of sense. I think, yeah, every dynamic is probably different.
Mm.
And do you feel comfortable sharing any misunderstandings or conflicts between you and your children? And it's totally fine if you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I'm going to share with you something. So when I was growing up, let's just say my little one, my younger son, when he was a toddler, he was sick a lot. I mean, he was just sick and he was throwing up and then had a fever, so he's sick a lot. So, and I established a habit of very protective of him without me knowing it. For example, and he's a shy boy when he grew up, not like my older son. My older son is very outgoing. So I kind of protective of him. For example, when I sent him to for Chinese school in Beijing for a month, so I went and spent about 2 to 3 weeks with him, just to make sure he's fine with the environment, he knows where to eat and all that stuff. But unlike I sent my older one to summer camps out of the house, when he was middle school. So you can see it's a very different, but because they are different, right? And then I think it's at the senior year of my younger son's high school. And after a dinner conversation, my brother actually told me, said about his observation. He said, "Oh, you're very protective of Spencer, who is my younger son." I said, "Really? Do I do that?" He said, "Yeah." And I could not remember the discussion, the subject matter of the discussion, but he said that to me, and I really thought hard after that. So I said, maybe I really did without knowing it. So and I found an opportunity to talk to my younger son, and I told him, I said, Mom have to apologize for that. I said, when you're young, when you're young, you were always sick, and I feel like I just have to make sure that everything's all right for you. And I said, but now I realize I'm really holding you back. And you need to understand it. I'm doing this not because I don't trust you. I have no confidence in you, but I just don't want you to get hurt, So I said, now I said, Mom is going to set you free. I'm going to set you free so you can fly like eagle. I said, but don't think that I don't care for you anymore, because I'm going to treat everything differently. I'll just let you go and you can decide whatever. I said, if you need anything, we're always here, But he did not say anything. Our conversation, we were in the car. He did not say anything, but I know he appreciate that conversation. So maybe that's why he really had a great time. He flew like an eagle when he was at Rice in college. I don't think it's a conflict. It's just like observation that you just change your route.
Yeah, I think it's like very understandable to be protective of your children, especially if they grow up sick. But yeah, I think it's also mature that you were able to have that conversation with him. Yeah, so is there anything that you wish either of your children better understood about the way you express love or about your relationship?
I need to ask them. No, I think we have very good relationship. I think we're lucky. At least I think we're lucky enough that they always want to arrange time back for holidays. They want to spend with us, and then they make an effort to have this family trip. I really appreciate that, and I think we always can have an open discussion about what they want or don't want, because they know I will pray for them. So they always share with me about what they wish for and what make them happy.
That's really sweet. And then kind of going way back in the past, could you describe the feeling that you had when your children were born and you saw them for the first time?
I think for the for Winston, and that's my older boy. I don't think I was like most. It's just like, even though I was 29, I feel like it was so. I don't think I was prepared to be a mom. Luckily, my mom was with me, so she helped me a lot. So I just don't think I was prepared. But for Spencer, now it's prepared to be a mom. So it's like you had experience, so you know what to expect to be a mom. I don't think I feel that way when I was having Winston, the first one.
I see it. I guess it's good that your mom was there to help out.
Yes.
Guide you along. That's good.
And also it also because as a career woman, you put a lot of emphasis on your career too, and you're so busy, so you just, because they have no experience, you just don't know what to carve out your time or yourself for that role.
Right. Yeah, there's lots of things to balance.
Right.
Could you describe like a moment in time that you felt most proud of your children?
Every time they share with me when they're very happy, regardless, they've done something great in their career or in their hobbies, or something they really want to do, and they had a chance to do it, something like that, or they had a girlfriend, they love them. So something like that, when they're very happy, when they share with me, I'm just so proud of them, and I will tell them, very proud of them.
That's awesome. Like kind of like they're letting you into their lives.
Yes, that sharing is so, I cherish that.
And then kind of similarly, what is your biggest hope or wish for your children?
I want them, I wish them will fully utilize their ability to be a useful person, whatever they can lead, they can contribute, they can make efforts, whatever they want to do. And I wish they have a happy family, just beautiful wife, beautiful children, and then they'll be happy in doing what they do.
Nice. And I guess you kind of covered this already, but if your children were to see this interview in the future, is there a message that you want to tell them?
I hope they will feel there's no regret in life. So whatever they wish for doing, they should do it right now. And they really cherish the people that love them and they love.
Very sweet. And my last question is, what does the role of mom entail for you?
Oh, I did not know I would enjoy this role that much. Like I said, my emphasis from beginning is really career. So children came when they came. I never really planned for children, but when they came, I love their coming, and I really enjoy being a role, because having children is something so special, because you see yourself in them. Like you see yourself react to certain things in them. It's just a very magic moment that you see yourself in another person. And then just the bonding with your children is something so special. So that now I know why so many people went through so many trouble to be parent, and they will really like it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And so that's all the questions I have prepared, but is there anything else you want to add?
Well, you have a question about how my parents express love to me.
Yes.
which I prepared. So I want to let you know about that, the answer to that, because I don't think my parents just like a normal Chinese parents. They don't say I love you. They don't hug you. I mean, until they're very old, they're maybe in their 90s, and they really love you to hug them. But when we were growing up, that's not what they do. So only time I could tell they love me is when I'm sick. And so when I'm sick, and I also sick a lot, like my younger child, before I was 10 years old. So when I was sick, and my dad would take me to the clinic or the hospital by tricycle, and then he will put me on his back because I cannot walk, and I'm big, so he put me on his back and he walk to the hospital. I remember that moment, so I just know he loves me. And then he would stay in the hospital right next to the hospital bed and sleep in the chair because he worries so much about me. So, that's how your parents love you so much. But anyway, bring tears to my eyes.
Oh, yeah, that's so sweet. Yeah, I remember when I was talking to my mom, she said something similar, but she didn't grow up sick, but she said like when she was younger, sometimes she would pretend to be sick so that her mom would take
Have that tender love, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Is there anything else that I missed?
No, I think you covered all. I'm impressed with your questions.
Thank
Did you
you.
come up the questions yourself, or you have
Yeah.
some?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
just kind of like based on the themes of my project. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you did a wonderful job answering them. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad I'm helpful.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, so have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, Emily, good luck to your project.